for this. I think I just missed my screen. Okay, so as they say that data analytics is actually a a multidisciplinary field, which is extensive use of computer skills are required, mathematics are required, statistics are required, and there is a use of descriptive techniques and a predictive model to gain valuable knowledge. Now, the insight from the data are used to recommend action to guide the decision making rooted in the business context. So, thus, analytics is not so much concerned with the individual analysis, ladies and gentlemen, but with the entire methodology. So there is an increasing use of the term advanced analytics, and it is typically to describe the technical aspect of analytics, especially in the emerging field where we say that like machine learning techniques, which is used in decision tree, logistic regression, linear to multiple regression analysis, classification to do predictive modeling, and it also includes unsupervised machine learning technique, which is like cluster analysis, principal component analysis, segmentation profit analysis, profile analysis, and association analysis. So let's try and understand here the difference between HR analytics versus people analytics versus workflow analysis. So this is a very crucial difference that we need to understand and know. Let's try and understand here what is the difference. So when we say HR analytics, now HR analytics is very crucial element where you tend to have the tasks which are exclusively done and met for the use for the HR metric functions. So in this, it covers the functions like trainings, expenses per staff, the time duration, the promotion or a demotion element, the engagement talent. That is the HR analytics. When we talk about the people analytics, it is only to do with the people. That is becomes the important aspect for the organization. They are not only working in the organization but also the external to the organization, which we call external customers. And when we talk about the workforce analysis, workforce analytics actually is nothing but it addresses the employees of the business concerning the remote employees, work from home employees, on-site staff, freelancers, consultants, gig workers, and there are personal employed in the various capacities. So there are certain set of statistical tools, methods, metrics which gets applied to the performance of workforce talent. Now, when we talk about the trends, if you will see in the past, these trends have actually, you will see how it has been used on the form of work, people analytics move towards the HR analytics and finally towards the workforce analytics. So let's try and how it has come up into the trend. The analytics actually is, definitely coming from the HR front. So let's try and understand what was the key difference here. Now, when we see in early 90s, you will find that it was an industrial economy, and you will find that the railroads, oil, steel was really very much in demand, and people were focusing on this set of elements. And you will find that how logistics actually started playing a very crucial and important role. So from supply chain analytics, it moves towards the budget analytics, moving towards the supply chain integration approach. And finally, you will find that integrated ERP system with the financial analytics came into being. Now that was a basic wave into the business analytics, but you will find in 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s, how from financial economy to the customer economy came into being. So a bigger conglomerates move from a financial engineering element to a customer segmentation element by understanding and using CRM as a database, understanding the customer segmentation, understanding the shopping basket element to be precise, and their web behavior analytics, and also predicting customer behavior that actually started getting very much used into the 80s. And then you will find in today's scenario, almost like a 2 decades, the talent and leadership became very, very into a differential element. So moving from the logistic to the customer and now the talent and leadership, how the globalization and demographics skills started understanding the element of recruitment to the learning to the performance management, moving understanding towards the talent management and workforce planning. And you will find that how the data analytics got used for the business driven approach. And finally, a lot of great organizations actually using HR analytics and the talent models to work towards the predictive analysis. So this is the holistic picture, ladies and gentlemen, which I'm highlighting here. And you will find that how we have seen a great transition from, industrial economies to today's scenario. So with this, you will find that HR analytics, although talks with the data, as analytics is nothing but it is based on data, but you will find that analytics is nothing but, when we talk about into a definition, it is a science of gathering, organizing and analyzing the data. And here when we talk about the HR as a function, you end up focusing on to the recruitment, talent management, performance management, retention, exit element, or employee engagement. So this all becomes very important element for the effective decision making. So we use various type of softwares, technology. So in the coming days, we will be talking about these element in a very detailed manner, and how HR departments are actually creating a large amount of data on a daily basis. If you will see, the objective of HR analytics will remain the constant. It is the sense of the data and putting that data into a valuable insight. So let's try and understand how these datas, the numbers, gets used and putting into the report form. And you will find that people actually start using this as an interpretation. So if I have to ask you, which all data we can generate in an organization, if any kind, I would request you to use the chat box and please share which all data we can generate in an organization if we talk about the HR per se. So please use the chat box and let's see, the element into it. I'm sure because we all are, having a great experience and we're already working. So you must be, generating some set of reports. Yes. Anyone? I'm using my opening the chat box. Okay. So I could see analytics, future centric. Thank you so much. Training impact measurement. Wow. That's also another great one. Predicting future. Okay. So if we are talking about predicting future, if you can furthermore highlight into it, that shall be really great for me. Okay, attrition analysis. Thank you so much. I liked manpower planning, training impact analysis, attrition analysis. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Great. So again, I could see cost per hire. Thank you so much, Harpreet. Ashish is mentioning turnover engagement survey. Beautiful. So yes, I can sense and I can get that cost per hire, engagement surveys, utilization, manpower, attrition analysis, training impact analysis, cost per hire, time to hire. Super. So thank you so very much. So let's try and understand the data that we collect. And I liked, Harpreet, which you mentioned, employees happiness. And nowadays a lot of organization actually is checking up the happiness index, especially into the COVID times, and they want to know what employees are feeling in this scenario. So well, to help you out and make you further understand is achievement and sales. This is one of the again common thing you would find. compensation, role and grade related, demographic related, engagement survey, performance reviews, travel, expenses, buying behavior, customer data, attendance records, recruitment records, retention, career management, training, compensation management, GPW survey analysis, well-being quotient, leadership analysis, happiness quotient, wellness index. So there are so many places you can generate these data. These data we can collect from the various sources. The organization have their dashboards, organization have their Excel sheets. So we keep collecting all this data. Now, when we try and understand here, we are doing nothing but actually exploring the data. And when we are exploring the data, it's very important to understand the logic and reasoning behind the data and asking the right questions. So these are the two key things which I have learned and understood in my past experience, that people are not able to apply the logics or do the correct reasoning, and sometimes they fail to ask the right question. So we need to understand what kind of questions we need to ask, either using 5Ws, one edge, or using a lot of why element, or exploring it further on the how element, rather than making it a close-ended question. It's very important to make it a very open-ended question. So, ladies and gentlemen, if we talk about data, matrix, and analytics, if I have to ask you, what could be the difference between all three of them? So I would request, actually, if you can, unmute yourself. I would like to hear the group members, anyone, if you can just unmute yourself and share what would be the difference between the data, the matrix, and the analytics. Anyone? Or maybe if you want to use chat box because of the the connectivity issue, I'm pretty good with that. Anyone? Yeah, I could see someone is unmuting.
Ma'am, data is the raw data which we collect from the organization, and matrix is the something which we use the formula to analyze the data, and analytics is the with the help of that data, what future we can predict what will be happening based on the past experience and all.
Nice, great, very good. So thank you so very much for highlighting this. Someone else would like to further emphasize on it?
Can you hear me,
Yes,
Walia?
very much, very much.
I'm Avian Chakravarti.
Yes, sir.
Data, I think, is the raw information that is available for any organization on
Yes.
which they would like to work and get some insights. Metric is what is the quotient that they want to, what is it that they want to find out. And analytics is the process of using the data, manipulating the data, and to get insights to answer that question, which has been projected by the metrics.
Very nice, nice. I like the thought. So I could see Ashish is mentioning, I have to see the chat box. Yeah. Ashish mentions data is details, metrics is rubrics to categorize them, and analytics to look at trend, what works and what does not. It links the similarity and how to refine them for future. Super. So I think all three of you have mentioned so very beautifully that what is exactly the difference between them. So let's try and understand here what exactly is the difference. So you know what, I have heard these three terminologies a lot in my life, and you will see that even for you this must be a common trend and common words, you must be using it. So data is the first step to a fact-driven strategy, and it's an integral where you understand how you can use the technology to capture, store, and report on your data. So when I'll put it in a very simplistic manner. When I use this term data, it becomes a very big selling point, especially for my company PRISM Philosophy, because it provides a solution with the data end of the day. But every time I hear it, the word seems interchangeable and fails to properly define the meaning and the value of each word. So I would say that this is not to say that the data, metrics, and analytics are not incredibly important, but I believe it is becoming a challenging and is not truly understanding what it means to be data driven and what you should be looking at to achieve about this knowledge. So let's say, what exactly is the data? Now, when we talk about data, we are talking about the number 1 to 0 and 1 to tens or 1 to hundreds. So the single input that enters your data warehouse for use in tracking success in your various thoughts, various strategy is what data is all about. So we are not at this point talking about the, what we call it, the measuring element. It is nothing but the number driven, and how we capture that number and how we process that number is further works on the analysis element. So how it gets captured, now that's the question. So the effect, the consistency of the accuracy of the data analysis is, you can have a downstream element, but you need to make sure that whenever you're putting and capturing the data, it should be always in a consistent manner. There should not be any ambiguity in it. You should following the same set of criteria whenever you are putting the data. So data impacts very important, that how it is captured, how it is stored, and how it is comprehended. Now these are the three things has to be understood. Now how it is captured is, as I mentioned, the consistency element. How it is stored, it is I know it's a very boring task, but it is end of the day, it's a practice, that how you set up, how you execute your data structure, and finally how you report your data greatly. So this is becomes the storing element. Now when I talk about the comprehensive, it is how you capture your data. You want to ensure that you are capturing it across your entire strategy what you have, and not just doing in a piecemeal but in a holistic manner. So you have to comprehend, understand it, what exactly is the end analysis is. So with this, whenever we talk about data, furthermore we have matrix. Now it becomes the second step. Now there are a lot of matrix from time to time we have been filling it up. It could be cost per hire, or the source of hire, or it could be on the related to the candidate drop off, or I mean so on. There are many. But what are these metrics and what are their value into the various strategy that ones get used to, that will focus and emphasize on the three element again. It is nothing but counts in the real time, ratios the matters, and granular and the comprehensive again. So when we say counts in real time, so the metrics are done right, it will always provide you with the updated counts of action in real time. So it's very important. If we take an example of a CRM, to an application, if they have to understand and see the candidates who have got hired, and the funneling gets done, and finally the source of real time gets analyzed. This is what we are focusing on to the real time. The ratio that matters is element, it is on the secondary value, and it is a simple ratio between the two data points. Now for an instance, candidate drop off in the relationship between the amount of candidates that complete one step to the one that completes the next one. So here you are measuring and comprehending with the two set of data. And finally the granular and comprehensive, which is purely into the good matrix, which will always be provided in a real time and is always available to you as per the job level and as per the aggregate level. So it should be readily available for you. And finally with this we have analytics, which is nothing but a nirvana. So here it is all around us, where we have a lot of data sets, a lot of matrix for our disposal, and we end up using it for educating us, for analyzing our future. So here we create again the three things: the dashboard, asking the right questions, and predicting the analytics. So the moment we say dashboard, now we know that we have been using Excel for the analytics, and for this we create the various dashboards, and then we end up interpreting those by using a lot of trial and error element. But for me, asking the right questions becomes very important, because a lot of people have in an organization the right set of dashboard, but what kind of questions that need to be asked, that has to be understood very strongly. So this is what I observed when I was working with ICICI Bank. We had a various kind of dashboard. So one of the dashboard that you all would have seen would be balance scorecard. So the balance scorecards when gets comprehended on the 4 parameters, which is financial, process, customer, and learning. Now all these 3 things get so very well, all 4 elements get so very well used. But the important question here is, whenever the senior used to ask the amazing question from the balance scorecard and the projection for the future. Now this is where we have to understand that how, as a HR professional or the at a leadership role, how you can ask various set of questions to your own team members and then identify what could be the future element. So my suggestion here would be is use the dashboard, ask the right set of questions, and then predict accordingly. Now, when we talk about the element here, furthermore, you will find that various organizations have been using the HR analytics. So there is no, one company. I think I have known a lot of organizations now which has been using. So let me give you understand here that I know it has become a common term and it's a trending term in a business circle today, and so the word what I would use is datafication. Now this refers to as a power of big data, which actually helps to transform and drive the human resource processes. So in this, the effect of datafication, I would say, of HR is, let me give you a few examples here onto the analytics which gets used. So let me use an example of Google. So how Google use data for evaluating hiring process. So they use data from thousands of job interviews conducted, comparison of interviewers, evaluation of candidates alongside their eventual performance gets used and analyzed by the Google. And then the data help the company to determine the right number of job candidates to interview for each position, as well as qualities that were the pointer to a success of the current Google. So imagine how Google is using. Let me give you another insight of Shell. And I'll tell you, even in ICICI, what we had been doing it, and including when I was working with Honeywell. So the identification of good idea generation. Now the database of ideas, when put forward by a big chunk of people working in an organization. So Shell, somewhere around 1,400 people, they were giving ideas. In ICICI, I remember thousands and thousands of people were giving ideas. So you will find that the original idea generators were asked to place some, what Shell did. I'm just emphasizing on it, that all the great ideas, the original ideas, they were asked to play some video games designed by the neuroscientist, whose aim was to test human potential. Now the game results were checked against the real world results of the idea proposed. And Shell was thus able to identify people with the tendency to have the best idea. So imagine how analytics actually got used. Let us try and understand how Xerox used increasing employee retention as a concept. So big data can actually unveil insight that are simple but effective. So Xerox carried out extensive data analysis on its customer service employee. Now the results that generated it actually showed that the longest served employee were those who lived close to the company office and had access to the transportation that was reliable. So imagine, ladies and gentlemen, that how the Xerox actually using the employee retention element with this transportation and people living close to the company. So I would request that use various element of your data and keep interpreting it. But how to do it? Definitely we have sessions, in a future that planned for all of you. Now the key ingredients for getting started. You know that we need data, we need matrix, we need patterns. Most important is we need questions, and definitely for data and the questions, we need the conversion element in the form of decisions to be used. Now, if you will find the great actionable business insights comes from the two elements, the HR metrics and HR analytics. Again, the two words, So let us try and understand what exactly is the difference between HR metrics and HR analytics. I think let me throw this question back to the audience here, and if you can just make me understand, please unmute yourself, and share what is the difference between HR matrix and HR analytics. Anyone can share. Please unmute yourself. Yes. I know you must be thinking through. Again, these words are really, confusing because they all look very similar. But it's very important to get the clarification between these words. HR matrix and HR analytics. Anyone can unmute and please share. I think the audience is actually thinking on it. Yes, I could see someone has unmuted. Please share.
Well, ma'am, as per my understanding, HR metrics is more to related with some targets or some numbers that we put in place. Like we talk about cost per hire, we talk about attrition percentage, and likewise. However, when we say analytics, we are more talking about and we are drawing inferences out of it. So, like when we say that there is this much attrition percentage, so then we go further into it and we try deep dive and analyze like what is the reason or and what are the various reasons responsible for the depression. So I think metrics just deal with till that level where we want to come out with some numbers and ratios and percentages to understand what is happening. But why it is happening, that answer can be actually gained only when we deeply analyze it. So analytics is little bit more than metrics, I believe.
All right. Great, thank you. Someone else would like to share? Yes.
Ma'am, HR metrics are the measurement used to determine the effectiveness of HR policies.
Yeah.
And the HR analytics, say maybe they are called HR analytics means people analytics. Okay. And these measures why something is happening and what is the impact of what's happening.
All right. Okay. Great. Thank you so much. So I could see two chat box here. I'll just help you to read out for all of you. Okay. So, all right. So I see HR metrics, as mentioned by Ashish, is number tracking, and HR analytics is analysis of the inferences for processes refinement. All right. Beautiful. Metrics can be a performance indicators, and analytics is performance review. Super. Great. Thank you so much. I like that insight. You all have been sharing it very beautifully. So let us try and understand the difference between both of them. So HR matrix and HR analytics, if you will see. So HR matrix is a matrix which handles the tangible data, which is very easy to measure, but has a very low value. So I mean, you will find that the way we have attendance record, and we look at that how many people are coming and how many people are on leave. So that becomes your HR matrix element. Metrics, it actually gives an information. Yes, it could be a spotlight, it could be into the monitoring, or it could be into the presenting the the past record data. It could be on understanding number of people applied for the job, and what are the age segment they are actually applying for, the types of recruitment campaign which we are actually undertaking, and what is the actual benefit out of it. And finally, if you will see, it is actually gives you an insider perspective of a business, because we are using the in-house data to understand this. So that's how the HR metrics gets used very strongly. But when you talk about analytics, it is absolutely on the reverse element, where it is not on the tangible data, but it is on the intangible data, which is hard to measure, but has a very high value. So you end up actually predicting or prescribing it, and you'd consider both past and the present data, and you will find that the great practitioner actually use and analyze it to forecast what is going to happen. So a lot of people have let's take an example of current scenario during the COVID times, that we all are in lockdown, and how people actually started projecting that people will start working from home, they will start doing sessions from home, and the behavior pattern of the people have started analyzing how organizations started doing it. And I was going through the Economic Times day before yesterday, and I actually read an article by Ritesh Agrawal, and he mentioned that how Oyo is planning to change, and how the mindset of the customers is going to change in future, and how the traveling would actually start, and this is where the element of the forecasting will start helping us to know into the analytics front. So it gets both the viewpoint of external and internal sources. So let us try and understand the very important element, as I mentioned, that we will understand how this analytics actually came into being. So, ladies and gentlemen, analytics actually is not a new term, but it is not that old also, I would say. So let us try and understand, how it started and how it has to come. So the effect of industrial revolution on the humanity, which cannot be quantified, ladies and gentlemen. So there was a new method for the specialization of tasks, the concentration of capital, and centralization of workforce forever changed the socio-economic business outlook. So there was a very famous leading authority in human resource gentleman was Frederick Taylor, and we all know about him. So he crafted the methodology of scientific management, which built on 4 cardinal principles. Okay. Now these principles were use of systematic technique, which was based on the scientific study of task, scientific selection, training and development of personnel. Now these 4 elements actually became a detailed supervisory guidance for each personnel for each individual task assigned to them, and then the performance feedback was given based on the scientific management principle. Now you will find that the ultimate goal of these processes was to improve the workers' condition, and thus definitely increasing the production, which was actually based on minute by minute analysis of production per task. Now this goes on, and you will find the record of one of the first known cases in which HR analytics was applied, ladies and gentlemen. So after the peace, which was restored in the 2 destructive global conflicts, which was World War I and World War II, and in this there was a organization on board HR personal element which actually came in, and you will find that how Elton Mayo researched in one of the textile mill, and he experienced that the high turnover rate was on, but the moment you will get intermittent rest, that will actually reduce the turnover ratio. So you will be finding that these the management practices were interwoven with the organizational behavior and social science, and which actually led to the rise of personalities, which was leading to the authorities into the HR analytics after this. And let me tell you, Jack Fitz, and who wrote that how to measure human resource management in 1984, ladies and gentlemen. So from post World War to the modern era, you will find that there is a huge adoption of internet changing game and the HR analytics actually coming in. So the growth indicates actually, which was fueled by the advent of the internet, and it became a widespread on the global scale. And that widespread actually led to the recognition of people analytics and as a critical factor in an organization success. So there are various companies they actually started using analytics in their processes to enhance the use of artificial intelligence, machine learning, visualization tools, and that is why you will find the enhancement of analytics coming in. So yes, how from the Taylor's time to the modern era time, companies have used it, people have used it, and now 71% of companies see people analytics as a high priority in their organization success. So keep using these things, and we will see how HR analytics actually became an important to everyone. So I know that importance of HR analytics actually primarily based on the data. So it enables HR practitioners to collate, organize, and finally analyze. So the data is related to the functions, for example, such as recruitment, managing, engaging, retaining the top talents to use it for the better decision making in these areas. And you'll find there's a large volume of data which gets created by the HR departments using the various softwares, tools, technologies, but the chief aim will always will remain the same, that is to how to interpret that data, how to correctly use the data, how to harness the valuable insight and gain the best out of it. So the HR analytics becomes very important element to improve the HR performance, to identify the best performing talent, or maybe to identify attrition and its causes, predicting in demand the skills and the position within the organization, and it could be also to transform the role of HR as a strategic partners. So let us try and understand here when we talk about HR performance. It is one of the major factor. It is very important, where it becomes very element to identify uh, who is giving the maximum performance, right? So it is actually can let the know that which department, which people, which role actually contributing the most. So that becomes very evident to it when we say performing talents. So you will find that identifying the best performing personnel in an organization by knowing that how much they have contributed to the growth of an organization, why the attrition is happening, what could be the reason of it, and what was the effect of those attrition in an organization. Understanding even the, or for that matter, predicting in demand skills and the position. So I remember, I'll give you a great example here of in SAP implementation in Honeywell, and we realized that yes, there were various positions which was getting created because we were implementing SAP not only in India but also in Malaysia. So you end up predicting that, and the demands gets created, and then with that, once the positions gets created, you fulfill those positions. And finally, transforming the role of HR as a strategic partner. So it is a unique position to influence the personal matters within the organization. Now, because employee data grants valuable insight, thus empowering human resource tremendously, you will see the furnishing of companies executive with a accurate, tested, verifiable data actually gets backed up by the policies and details by the use of if you talk about the recruitment, retention, and engagement, the strategic partners actually use into the various thought process and the element to it. So the importance, you will find it at a various level, and you will see the benefits are actually coming up in a various manner. It could be in the form of improving the HR performance, as we talked, or predicting the demand, but you will see that it increase the need of data, and it qualify the hire in one-to-one HR analytics benefits. Transformation becomes another one, retention becomes the another one, understanding what the benefits that we're looking at, and finally predicting what exactly is coming up. So this is the core strength of the HR analytics, and you will find that various challenges also into the HR analytics is coming up. So these analytics challenges for me, as per my experience, are two. One is multiple source of data, and secondly lack of skills and training. So my suggestion would be is that yes, there are various source of data, but which data to be used, you should be actually knowing it. And the second one is the best execution of your usage of your skills. And if you lack that skills, then get trained. There are various courses available, and luckily you all are great to join this course by ISTD. And trust me, with the practical enhancement and knowledge and the thought process, we'll try to bring out with the various case studies, with the various analysis which we'll be doing in the coming session, and you will understand that how we can enhance our own skill set into it. So let's try and understand furthermore here the different types of HR analytics. So there is organizational cultural analytics. Now when we say organizational cultural analytics, it is nothing but when I say culture, which refers to the a collective unspoken norms which governs the conduct, principles, patterns of human behavior, and which actually prevails in an organizational setting, is culture. So it is very important and proper to use the organizational cultural analytics. um, it is nothing but a process of judging and understanding of your workplace culture. So the accurate understanding of this enables to track the noticeable change. So you will see, you can detect the early signs of the culture becoming unpleasant. So please, you will find the change, how it takes place. And one of the good example I remember is Bank of Baroda. How when they change the culture, and you will go back and see and read the case studies. So I'll just use a very simple example of their logo, and how they have changed it to the current scenario, and how they have used the various metrics and have transformed in a very different element altogether, and they've been using the cultural analytics in a very strong manner. Capacity analytics actually impacts the revenue, ladies and gentlemen. So it enables you to confirm how operationally efficient your workforce is. So the companies may specialize in the laundry of clothes, but the analysis can reveal that the staff utilizes the bulk of their time on the meeting rather than the main task of laundry. So you need to figure it out how the capacity is getting used. So each kind of behavioral analysis will help to determine how much capacity each individual has to grow. So that becomes a capacity analytics. We have employee churn analytics, which is nothing but a process of determining your labor force turnover rate. So the analysis of data, which is futuristic in this regard, can help to predict a real future and reduce staff attrition. So data collected from the past actually is known as historical employee churn, which states in detail the employee churn rate from the inception of the employment. So you will find that how you can use the prediction of the same element. The last two, when we see the leadership analytics and the capability analytics, so leadership analytics does it, which helps to analyze the various facets of the effectiveness of the workplace. So it covers the entire spectrum of strength and deficiencies of an individual. So it is very essential that this assessment is carried out, because poor leadership is vitally zero leadership, and results in a loss of revenue, loss of time, and employee churn. And then we have capability analytics. So capability analytics focuses on the degree of proficiency of the personnel and the combined skill with the set pool which gets determined by the business. So capability analytics actually covers the talent management process, which actually helps you to pinpoint the core competencies of your workforce. Now, once that gets determined, these can be set as a standard, and it is compared to the capabilities of your staff, and if any gaps are captured, it gets monitored there. So this is how you will find that different types of HR analytics gets used in an organization. And then you will see, I have given you a very descriptive manner, detail here to use this, and you will see in retention, the attrition rate, retention rate, voluntary versus involuntary, employee index, cost of replacements gets checked. When we see in the trainings, it is average training hours per FTE, feedback analysis and effectiveness, gap analysis into the training needs versus training needs has been accomplished. And once you will be having your training and development classes, you will see that how analysis gets used, especially into the training evaluation, and how you can use it effectiveness. So you will be monitoring in that class. Service delivery, by having a scorecard, the manager scorecard, you have the best managers and the showcasing them into the visualization element. Engagement index, satisfaction survey which gets used in a talent acquisition, which we have various aging analysis, cost per hire ratio, which the group recently just mentioned in the chat, joining ratio, fulfillment index, yield per campuses becomes very important, right? And then we have a customer satisfaction survey, which is on the strategic element, which is on the effectiveness survey. There is a departure framework which gets used. Then we also have very important aspect of this analytics into the HR delivery mode. Where does it actually gets fits into the our function? So you will find that we have HR business partnering with the Center of Excellence and shared services, and we have HR head, and within the HR head you have zonal heads and the business unit HR heads. But the HR head actually manages compensation, benefits, recruitment and selection, L&D functions, HR analytics, and shared services. So this becomes a very common component of the HR head, which is a part of the Center of Excellence. So do not get confused with this aspect of Center of Excellence with the business partnering and the shared services. They both are of a different periphery altogether. So HR analytics actually becomes very, very key and important element, vertical within the department and under the supervision of the senior leadership of HR in the Center of Excellence. So with this, we have why we talk of HR analytics. So, we have to measure and manage. We have to link business objectives with people strategies. We have to manage the performance of the people. And finally, the return on investment. So you will find all four quadrants here, whether it is from measure to manage to ROI to PI to the objectives settings by analyzing the strategies of the people. It's very important what we are measuring, what exactly the demand of HR is, and how the global organization are using the workforce analytics, and finally how they actually clearly demonstrates the interaction of the business objective. The bigger picture actually helps you to showcase in the dashboard form. So keep using these analytics. We have one very important element of the analytics metrics is that we use it for the process optimization, and in this optimization it is very well done to understand the efficiency and effectiveness over a period of time. So we use HR operations, we use organizational performance, to understand the various efficiency and effectiveness. It could be related to the resolution of the HR self-service tickets, and we have a ticket numbers get generated or service request numbers get generated, and that's how the efficiency gets measured by checking on their turnaround time. That is the TAT we mentioned in the corporate world. But again, the element element of effectiveness becomes very important, where it focuses on the quality of the HR service which gets provided. So with this HR operations, we have organizational performance to check on the various statistical element on the, or the percentage and the behavioral element with the turnover, percentages on the regretted loss, turnover, absenteeism, or staff attrition. So this HR analytics actually you will find gets used at a various platforms. But then end of the day, there are various challenges, and we know that one of the biggest challenge of HR analytics is the relationship between the action and the insight on the with the ROI. So if we can align this together, your actions and the insight to the ROI, you will see the huge change coming up in this. Data privacy becomes very, very challenging, and conformance is another one. Sometimes you will find that data cleansing becomes a biggest hard task for the people, because they really don't know how to cleanse the data, and a lot of time gets actually waste in this element. What again my experience says that a skilled pool of talent, those who actually understand how to collect the data, whether you are collecting it from the primary source or from the secondary source, and how you're managing it and how you're further reporting it, the people actually have to understand that very strongly. So it is not necessary that you have to become very strong into the predicting the data or prescribing the data. I think the most important one is to understand the descriptive of the data. So we will understand the descriptive analysis on the deep dive in the later sessions. Also, most important data is it is a very voluminous data, and how to manage that becomes very challenging sometimes. And definitely quality of data. What I have understood that if we don't work on our current data, you will see that we will not be able to understand in the future. So my suggestion would be, keep observing your data, because your current data becomes very, very crucial and important. So how many people are traveling, let's say, if we talk about today's scenario of the travel industry, so even if just T3 is currently operational, but how many people are traveling, why are they traveling, what are their ratios, if we can get to know such set of insight, we will be able to come up with a new element of thought process for the people. And definitely yes, achieving executive leadership buy-in is very important for the HR analytics. Anyhow, it is not only for the HR analytics, but leadership buying-in for the great initiatives, I think it is the key for success. And finally, it is HR technologies that we use should be of a premium quality. If we use technology which is of low quality and is not giving us the real insight, then becomes very, very challenging. So if you are able to handle these 8 pointers of challenges, trust me, HR analytics is a very wonderful thing, and you will start using it in a very great manner. So with this note, I thank you so very much for the today's session. I will open the session for the chat box for each one of you. If you have any query and question, please feel free to ask me. Anyone. So I've opened the chat box for all of you, and let's see if you have any query and question, and we can talk about that. Any query, any question if you have. I think it seems that everything is well clear by each one of you. No questions. Thank you so much. Great. Okay, so with that note, I think, great. Thank you so much. So what we will do is, so the ISTD will anyhow take care of the next session, and they will intimate you when is it due next, and we will meet you next week. So with that note, thank you so much. Namaste from Anubha. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I'll be closing the session in next 1 minute.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.